morning, students. A bright good morning to all of you. And thank you so much for your patience. Thank you so much for waiting. We were just waiting so that all your friends are in for the session. So, and they were taking some time. So we thought like we'll give them some time. And we are sure that this is going to be a beautiful session for you because if you are observing the news and if you're following the news, you know that there are students committing suicide because they are unable to appear for NEET exams. So this is a very sad scenario that is happening in our country, and that is because children think that their only option in science are mostly medicine or engineering. But then that is a misconception. It is really not like that. You have beautiful career options ahead in science that will fetch you better career perspectives than medicine or engineering. So this will be a session that will bring some light into your thoughts on this idea. So I would actually like to welcome the speaker for the session. He is a leading scientist renowned among the scientific community all over the world. He is Dr. Shantikumar V Nair. He is the director of Amrita Centre for Nanosciences and Molecular Medicine. And he is also the Dean of Research of Amrita Vidyapeetham, that is Amrita University. So I would just like to welcome Sir to the session. And Sir is like I told you, he has a very awesome background in science, and he's the best person to talk to you. And it's a privilege for all of you to have him here to talk to you. And he received his BTech in Metallurgical Engineering from the Indian Institute of Technology, Mumbai, and Master of Science and Doctor of Engineering in Material Science and Engineering from Columbia University. And then he was a faculty of the Mechanical Engineering Department of University of Massachusetts, USA. And in 2006, he joined Amrita Vidyapeetham, and he heads initiatives in the applications of nanotechnology to medicine and energy areas. And right now, this Biocenter, Nano Biocenter of Amrita is the topmost biocenter in India. So I think from his expertise and experience itself, Sir will have a lot to say to all of you. So welcome, Sir, to the session, and I would like to hand over the session to you. And before that, I have a request to all the students. As Sir will be presenting, you will have your doubts and your questions. So I request all of you to post in the chat box any question related to the subject or the session. And it is my humble request, because we have close to 1,000 participants. My request is not to chat anything else, not to post anything else in the chat box. Chat your doubts and questions. Feel free. Okay? All the best. Welcome, Sir.
Okay, very good. Can you all hear me now? I'm hoping that you can.
Yes, sir.
It's a great pleasure to be here and talk to so many young people. And definitely all of you are the emerging young dynamic minds of the future of our country. And the choices that you make is the future of our country. So it's a very, very important choice that you're making when you're finishing school, to decide to embark on a career like this. And the fact that you are here shows that you take it seriously. And I'm very happy to have the opportunity to talk to you a little bit about some ways that you can choose careers in a very thoughtful way, in a way that you have the awareness and you do it in a proper way. You know, just very briefly, as Ashwati said, and Ashwati is one of our own PhD students, and she agreed to host an MC in this program, since we have almost 1,000 of you here today. As she said, I spent most of my career actually in the US. So I was a professor there, and in a fairly unconventional scientific area, which is nanotechnology. And I was working in the area of nanotechnology in medicine and healthcare, which even in the US at that time, which is about 2000 to 2006 was fairly an emerging area. And in 2006, I decided to come back to India to head the research at Amrita Vidyapeetham. And it was a conscious choice that I made, that I want to contribute to the academic and research capacity and dynamism of our own country. I wanted to come here because I felt that India has so much potential, and many young people are often taking decisions without really giving a lot of critical thought to what it is that they really want to do. What is their passion? And when you follow your passion, you always succeed. So I wanted to have that opportunity to interact with young minds in the hopes that I can inspire them to think on their own, to succeed on their own, to make choices on their own, and so on. So today I want to spend some time talking to you about some new cutting edge programs, not because they're the only cutting edge programs in India, but specific cutting edge programs, particularly in the healthcare area, which has a lot of potential. And they are an example of the kind of potential and opportunities that India provides. If you look at the time when I was your age and I was a student, I just simply did not have these kind of choices. And as Ashwati said, it was be an engineer, be a doctor, and if neither of these two, you go abroad. Okay, so it was like a three-way decision. So, but now there is really a lot of potential, and these other dynamic cutting edge areas have a lot of opportunities for careers, not only in the industry, but also in academia, in research, and so on. So I would like all of you to give these areas a lot of thought and not simply fall into a conventional way of thinking. There's nothing wrong whatsoever to do medicine and engineering, and I think that if some of you have a passion for it, you should take it up. However, search for that passion. Find out what are all the various areas that are there, and then follow that and try to make a decision with some awareness, with some critical thinking. So that's going to be the theme of this presentation and this webinar, is to expose you, give you some introduction. So the first part of it, I'll give you a presentation. I will show you a brief video about our center activities, just 5 minutes, so you won't be bored, just a very brief exposure. And maybe I'll take half an hour, and then I know there's a lot of you, but we can try and have some kind of an interaction if possible. I don't know the logistics of it. We'll try. We'll do our best. If you can not chat except to ask questions, that would be helpful, so that we can know immediately, what people are asking. Okay, so let me start by with the presentation. So I'll share my screen. So let's move forward. So as I said, the two cutting edge areas we're going to look at is molecular medicine and nanobiotechnology. I'll give you a sense of what these two areas are and why it is so important. What are the opportunities there? And I also talk about biochemistry. So with that, let me okay. So this is, as I said very briefly, it is a very exciting time for young students graduating from high schools. Why? As I said, there are a lot of very new cutting edge areas in science and technology. I'm going to talk about the healthcare aspect of it. And there are also in India, unlike back in the 70s and 80s, when I was a student, a lot of new science and technology companies, startups, which are aggressively trying to take new ideas, new concepts to the market, apply them, develop products, develop devices. And that is a culture that is starting up in India in a big way, which is also a very key time. And that's a very good time for young people. Also, many multinational companies are trying to come to India and set up shop because they realize what an incredible talent pool they have in India and also an incredible market. So this is a time when the opportunities in India are on the upswing, very much on the upswing. And India is also very competitive now in research and development, unlike back in the 70s and 80s, when the West was way ahead of us. Now, in fact, if you look at the area of nanotechnology, India is number 3 in the world in terms of the number of publications in that area. That's not a small accomplishment. So therefore, the conventional thinking that I have only 2 choices, either to be an engineer or a doctor, is a passé thing. It's no longer true. So that's the point that I want to make. And I want you to confidently think of new areas because the opportunities in the culture is different. So what are some of these emerging areas? So you can see information technology for sure, it will always stay as a very, very cutting edge thing because the potential is enormous. A lot of growth happening there. But the areas are put in yellow or highlighted in yellow are the areas I want to touch on related to healthcare. And that is biotechnology, nanotechnology, nanobiotechnology, molecular medicine. All of these, though they are emerging areas, are highly successful. And there are a lot of opportunities there. And some of the other areas where India is growing rapidly is manufacturing, robotics, artificial intelligence, cognitive science, that is brain science, which is a very, very hot area, and educational technologies. This is one of the educational technologies we are in, the Zoom. Okay, see how easily 1,000 of us are coming and sitting here and talking. So a lot of such technologies are developing in India as well. And the key aspect of new technology that I want to really help you understand is that the new sciences are not single fields. They're overlapping fields. For example, I've drawn these 3 circles and just take the pointer here. So here's the medical science, here's basic science, which is like physics, chemistry, biology, medicine, and then there's engineering and technology. Medical science is clinical science, patient-related science. This is basic science related to fundamental studies, laboratory science. Engineering and technology is related to products, devices, technology, and so on. So the new fields are not restricted necessarily to one or the other of these 3 circles, but works at the interface, the regions where there's an overlap between all the 3. And many new fields are actually an overlap between various areas, and that is what is called interdisciplinary. And the new emerging areas are interdisciplinary. So you need to develop skills in multiple areas. That will make you very, very competitive in the marketplace. So always be open to new things because learning new things will give you that interdisciplinary potential. And I want to just say a little bit about our university because I think it is going to be important for you to understand that our university is a university that is founded on an inspiration. Everyone's success is founded on an inspiration, right? Unless you have the passion, you cannot succeed. And what our chancellor, known as Amma, who has created this university, talks about education as a passion. Something that you really love, that you want to do, that you want to use it to transform the world. that kind of an inspiration and education is what our university is founded in. And that's the kind of passion that allows you to explore new areas. And so now I want to start by introducing our specific center. And that's the focus of the presentation for some time. So as Ashwati said, this is the first center in this cutting edge area of molecular medicine and nano biosciences or nano biotechnology. And we started in 2006 when I came back from the US, and it has emerged as the #1 center in India. It's a state-of-the-art center in nanobiotechnology and molecular medicine. And it has now grown into a full-fledged school and a center with several courses, a lot of students, a lot of research, a lot of activity in academics and research, and also product development, which is related to industry. So I want to show you a brief video. And before that, here's a picture of me with our beloved former President Abdul Kalam and the Vice Chancellor. When he visited us, he was so very impressed with all the cutting edge activities going on. So with that, I'm going to show you a very brief video so that you can appreciate the sort of things that we do.
An immense passion for science is vital to push boundaries of research, but the most important factor is the inspiration to change lives. Amrita Centre for Nanosciences and Molecular Medicine was started with this vision and has been constantly striving to attain excellence in education and research. We are India's first nanobio center and one of the thematic units of excellence under the Nano mission, generously funded by the Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. In addition, immense support from the Department of Biotechnology and the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy has helped us be where we are today.
If we look at human history, cancer is one of the toughest diseases we ever faced with. At Amrita, we have a major cancer nanomedicine program where we develop nanomedicines that specifically detect and kill cancer cells and cancer stem cells.
This is a unique protein nanomedicine which was developed for cancer therapy. Here we use 2 human proteins which are self-assembled to form a coaxial nanoparticle.
This is a nanofibrous polymeric implant to treat brain cancer. This implant can deliver multiple drugs for a long period in the brain without affecting any other part of the body.
Diagnosis is an emerging technique where we can combine diagnosis and therapy together. Here in the center, we have developed this doped calcium phosphate nanoparticles for image-guided treatment of cancer using MRI, optical ultrasound, and nuclear properties.
This is a simple light-based nanosensor for the detection of oral cancer patients at an early stage. Here we used confocal Raman spectropmethodology method for its detection. We can use this technology at community level for large-scale screening of oral cancer patients.
Molecular medicine is an upcoming field that has immense potential in identifying specific molecular tools for disease diagnosis, treatment, prognosis, and prevention.
Biochemistry Laboratory's motto is research from bedside to bedside and back to bedside. In this regard, we have identified molecules specific for central nervous system leukemia as well as for neurodegenerative disorder, multiple sclerosis. And apart from the identification of these molecules, we have developed an in-house, low-cost, commercially viable protein verification system with which we could develop diagnostic kits which is affordable to common man.
My stem cell lab, in collaboration with Dr. Shantikumar V Nair, developed a 3-dimensional bone marrow niche-like condition for testing the chemosensitivity of leukemic stem and progenitor cells. This can be used as an effective in vitro drug screening platform.
Regenerative medicine and drug delivery are other promising areas in medical research.
In our lab, we have actually developed a novel technique of 3D spinning, wherein we have got these polymeric threads which can be developed into continuous yarns, and that can be made further into fabrics of this kind, which can be drug loaded and can also be developed into vascular grafts that are currently under testing in rabbit models.
The backbone of the center is its state-of-the-art facilities that house some of the most sophisticated and advanced equipment needed for research. These research facilities are supported by Government of India grants from DBT, DST, ICMR, CSIR, UGC, and MNRE.
The DST Amrita Animal MRI facility houses a 7 Tesla high-resolution imaging system that is used routinely by researchers for live animal imaging studies. The DBT Amrita TEM facility has a high-resolution field emission transmission electron microscope that is capable of atomic level characterization. The DBT Amrita confocal imaging facility accommodates a 2-photon laser confocal microscope along with a Raman imaging system. The animal facility at Amrita houses both small and large animals for research purposes. It also contains a nude mice facility for those studies that require immunocompromised animals. The animal cardiac catheterization facility houses a motorized state-of-the-art C-arm that is used for major cardiovascular studies in large animals. With the expertise and infrastructure available at ACNSMM, we have been able to develop products with translational potential. With the help of DBT and DST, we have now built a 6,000 square feet nano GMP facility that is the first of its kind in India. The GMP facility houses 4 dedicated process lines for non-chemotherapeutic products and 1 process line exclusively for chemotherapeutics. Our goal is to ultimately take our developed products to clinical trials.
In addition, our faculty profile includes scientists who have been awarded prestigious fellowships such as the Inspire Fellowship, the Ramalingaswamy Fellowship, and the Ramanujan Fellowship. The Centre also actively collaborates with several reputed international researchers. We have also successfully launched 3 innovative MTech programs in nanomedical science, molecular medicine, and nanotechnology and renewable energy, which were first of their kind in India. Inspired by research, inspired to serve.
We talked broadly about many areas. So now I want to focus a little bit more on the molecular medicine part and so on, which you are particularly interested in, which is why many of you are here. But I wanted you to see the other areas that are there so that you can understand how interdisciplinary the field is, and it allows you to interact with people from many areas. In fact, some of these students in molecular medicine are also interacting with students in nanomedicine and so on, so that there is a breadth of research activity and academic activity that is going on, which is why I wanted to show you different areas that are there in the center. So I'll skip some of these things since we have already talked about it. We've just wanted to say that we focus a lot on hands-on laboratory skills, which is why students publish so many papers. Most of the papers we have published are published by the students. And every single one of them pretty much has been able to be placed in ambitious careers. If we have time, we'll show you some of where the students are so that you can appreciate what is going on. So we have 2 undergraduate programs, which is what you're interested in. One is the molecular medicine, that is a BSc program. And second is the biochemistry program. That's a foundational program. So it's sort of the fundamental basis for the body's functioning. And some of you are a little bit more science-oriented, will love to take up biochemistry. It's basically chemistry as it occurs in the body and controls our body's functions. Whereas molecular medicine is related more to how molecules within the body, the basic molecules in the body, can be utilized to diagnose diseases, treat diseases, and help understand how diseases start, how diseases progress, and so on. So today, without a proper understanding of molecular medicine, it's very difficult to develop drugs, it's very difficult to develop medicine, and very difficult to really have any kind of exposure to research in these areas of medicine, because you need to have an understanding of the molecular aspects of medicine. So we are therefore started this year these 2 programs because we've been around for 10 years and we've had so much experience and so much capacity in these areas, so many fantastic labs that the student can utilize, And so it is not just sitting in a classroom and reading textbooks anymore. It's actually doing the work, developing, characterizing things at the molecular level and so on. Just for your information, because most of you are not going to end at the BSc level, you will likely to build up your career, will want to go into a PG level. So many of these programs go into the PG level and on to further research if you wish, or you can go off into the industry. So we have MSc in molecular medicine as well. We also have an MTech in molecular medicine. So these are programs that are there. So if somebody is really interested in a much more in-depth career in molecular medicine, everything is there. All the opportunities are there. We even have a joint partnership with the University of Arizona, which is one of the world's top universities, top 100 universities, actually a top 100 university, top 50 in the US. And it has a cell and molecular medicine program, so we work very closely with them. And they also, at the PG level, they teach our students. So this is just for your information. You may not get into it right away. So just wanted to, so I'm only going to touch on this because you may not be that keen on the nano part of it, but it is very related because many of the molecular aspects of medicine is also studied with nano components and nano materials. So just for the sake of background, these are all basically looking at medicines at the nano level. And I'll come back to this if I have time. I think I'll start more with the molecular medicines since you're more interested in that. So, okay, I'll skip this. Okay, so I want to start with the molecular medicine. Of course, the fundamental aspect of looking at medicine in any shape or form is to understand that the human body has 15 trillion cells, 15 trillion cells. And these cells are connected with an extracellular matrix, which are basically biological molecules that link the cells together. The cells themselves are made up of molecules. So in order to understand the functioning of the body, one has to understand that the basic unit of life and the basic unit of the whole body is a cell. Okay, and treatment at the molecular level means oftentimes treatment at the cellular level. So whatever drugs that you use to treat diseases or diagnose diseases has to be able to go inside the cell, because a lot of the diseases start there, the molecular level. So therefore, I wanted to show you this picture and give you an idea that there are 15 trillion cells. So this particular picture talks about how nanomaterials are also it's like 10,000 times smaller than that of a cell. So it's almost behaved like a molecule. So they can also enter the cells. So that's why there is that relationship between nanoparticles and molecules. So in the molecular medicine part, you'll be talking about just giving molecules which enter the cells, whereas in the nano part of it, you'll talk about nanoparticles which enter the cells. So it's very related, right? So they are kind of like brother and sister. So those entering the molecular medicine program will talk more about use of molecules and understanding what you're trying to target within the cell and so on. So we'll skip this part of it. So we now, if we are looking at molecules, because we're talking of molecular medicine, you have basically three major molecules, okay, biological molecules, which one is the DNA, which is what designs and governs the genes in our system. So that's the brain, okay, because the genes is the intelligence. It confers intelligence, it confers the ability to design and help the body function. It is a code. It is a code that is used to design the human being and also to control how the human being functions. So DNA, which is a sort of called the basic brain cells, okay, in the sense that every single cell has a nucleus which is contains the DNA, which governs the genes and it controls the functioning of the cell, etc. And then there is RNA, which is basically half of a DNA. You can put it in a very simple way, which translates the DNA to proteins. So proteins is what makes up our whole body. So different proteins make up different tissues, the muscle tissue, the bone tissue, okay, the brain tissue, okay, the fat tissue. All of these are proteins, and these molecules are very, very important and is what governs the molecular biology of functioning of the body. And you have 4 alphabets, okay? So using these molecules, you can create 4 alphabets, A, C, G, T. And, you know, in the English language, there are 26 alphabets. Here in the body, you have 4 alphabets. In those 4 alphabets, we have created 7 billion people with 7 billion different personalities and traits, and ability to have intelligence, ability to take decisions. Every single thing is controlled by these 4 alphabets, okay, which is part of the genes. So that's a very interesting thing to remember. And when we are studying molecular medicine and we study genetics and genetic science, you get into depth of what are these 4 alphabets and how do you use these alphabets to control not only diseases, but perhaps also to control our health. So very simply, DNA is a coupled chain molecule. RNA is, like, as I said, half of a DNA. And these put together is able to create the proteins out of it and create essentially all the tissues and all the parts of our bodies intelligently, okay? So here's what they are. All the molecules are shown here. And so basically in molecular medicine, what are we trying to do? We are putting those molecules to work for you. You have to understand what these molecules are. For what? To understand the origin of diseases, okay? What are defective genes? How do they cause disorders? Okay, and secondly, how do these molecules, when they are disorders or defects in it, how do they cause a weakened immune system? How do we get certain proteins that are not really there, that are not really what you want? And because when you have defective genes, you create defective proteins or the wrong proteins. And all of these things are related to the origin of diseases. So from DNA to RNA to proteins, the whole cascade of molecules will get affected if your DNA has certain defective genes in it. Certain proteins will get overexpressed, which should not be. So they could be, for example, bad proteins. For example, Alzheimer's is caused by accumulation of some bad proteins, which is causes sort of things to accumulate in the brain, which causes you to lose memory and so on. So if you have certain bad proteins accumulate, then you get certain types of diseases. So understanding how to put these molecules to work for you in the proper way is the basis of good health. The other part is, how do you use external molecules to correct the defects? For example, if I have a genetic defect, can I correct it? If I have some proteins which are overexpressed, which you don't want, or if there are bad proteins, how do you remove them? How do you give a molecule, which we call a molecule is a medicine, to correct these molecular defects that have accumulated in the system? how do you diagnose these defects? How do you tell that there are certain molecular defects in the body? How do you know that there's a mutation in the gene that is causing some proteins to form, which causes diseases? So all of these things is the area of molecular medicine. Of course, this is not the time for me to teach you molecular medicine, but to just give you a sense of what it is that we try to do in that field. And there is an extraordinary potential there, because it is the students and the workforce that understands it at the molecular level now that can develop medicines, that can even be able to develop diagnostic tools to say that such and such a molecule is causing a problem and so on. Okay. So in order to do molecular medicine, the reason you don't see molecular medicine in all the universities across India, why? Because you need really advanced state-of-the-art labs. Because to work at the molecular level, you need specialized labs. Now, we are one of the few universities that are extremely well equipped. We have genomics labs, proteomics labs, we have molecular biology labs, cell biology labs. We also have animal labs, as you saw, because some of these things have to be studied in animals. You can go in and test human beings, right? So we have to study it in animals. We also have to use computers to study molecules. We cannot do everything on live creatures. And we cannot do everything in labs either. So we have a bioinformatics lab, and then we can develop medicine, which is drug development lab. We have all of these things. And in order to really have a study of molecular medicine, we need to have these state-of-the-art labs. For example, this microscope, which you saw in the video, we can see an individual atom. You can see an atom in a material. Okay, which is much smaller unit than a molecule. A molecule is a conglomeration of atoms. You can see a single atom. So that's the level of magnification and characterization you need in order to study molecular medicine. And when you have these kind of skills, there are a lot of companies which would love to have people with these kind of skills who can use this knowledge to help them develop diagnostic tools and help them develop new drugs and so on. So the research areas are many. There's a lot of areas, or even not only research, but even academic areas to understand. When you take these classes, you have to understand how molecules are involved in inflammatory diseases, cardiovascular diseases, neurological disorders, cancer, diabetes. What is the connection between molecules and each of these diseases? That's part of molecular medicine. So to do this, you need a hospital. You need a place where there are doctors and clinicians there treating patients. And our strength here is that you have a state-of-the-art super specialty hospital. We interact with doctors. You can go to and talk to these doctors. You can understand how the patients are doing. You can see patient data. You can see the direct connection between diseases and molecules. And that is also a strength that is very important. If you want to study molecular medicine, you need a hospital there. That really gives you an exposure to medicine in a way that is different from reading it in books. So anyway, these parts I'll go through it only very quickly since we are already at 11. I want to hear from you. So we have here a setup where if you look at the left side, okay, I'll just show this. You have the lab. This is the symbol for the lab. This is a clean rooms and processing, because when you're doing molecular science, or when you're doing basically molecular medicine, you have to have extraordinary cleanliness. So you need to have clean rooms that are very high level of cleanliness. These are very specialized rooms where you do some of the work. So you need a laboratory, you need clean rooms, you need animal studies. and you need the hospital so that you can understand what is the connection between all of what you're doing and the patient. All these things make up molecular medicine. Okay, so that's the part that I want to mention. It's a breadth of experience all the way from the laboratory to clean rooms to animal studies to clinic. So this is a part that will help you understand how important this is. Our clean room facility to wear all these gowns and hoods, and our students work in these areas. If they want to do clean room processing or characterization, they work in these kind of labs where they have to completely hood up and do their laboratory work. And there are also clean rooms where you can do some of the chemistry work and so on. And I didn't have chance to talk too much about biochemistry. Biochemistry is basically the chemistry of all these biological molecules. How do they interact with each other? What is the science of interaction of all these molecules with each other? How do carbohydrates interact with proteins? How do they interact with different enzymes? How does all those interactions and the chemistry of those interactions control your health and well-being? So in order for you to, those of you who are more interested in a basic science, biochemistry is a very fundamental area which has a lot of opportunities. It has been around for decades. India has a lot of opportunities for biochemists, whereas molecular medicine is a bit newer. So that's how it is. And those who complete courses of this nature have opportunities in pharma companies, because now, you know, India is the largest pharmaceutical manufacturing country in the world. Okay, most of the, in fact, the vaccines that were developed in Oxford are being manufactured in India. Okay, so pharmaceutical industry has become huge. So with the kind of strengths that you will have with the molecular knowledge of medicine, you'll have a very strong competitive edge in companies like this. Second is biotech companies. Biotech companies are companies where they develop medicines. They develop starting from scratch, they design the molecules, and they try to figure out how these interact with the body's molecules and so on. Pharma companies are mostly involved in manufacturing the medicines. So biotech companies, and then there are nanotech companies, which is also companies hiring molecular medicine students, because many of the nanotech companies are involved in nanomedicines, which also, in order to understand nanomedicine, you need molecular medicine. So there's a lot of interconnectivity between all of these things. And as I said earlier, a lot of new startups have come up in India. In fact, our own center has two startup companies. Two startup companies have started. They've hired many of our own students. And these are startup companies that are involved in nanomedicine, implants, and so on. And then hospitals. Hospitals have routine testing labs, patient care testing labs, and they are also looking for people with that kind of expertise. And then PG programs. So many of you, most likely, in my opinion, will not stop at the BSc in molecular medicine or biochemistry. You will want to strengthen that degree. It's a PG degree, and maybe even think of an advanced study abroad. So those opportunities are enormous. Why? Because our program is very research oriented, it is laboratory oriented. All the students do most of their learning in the labs. It's not like sitting in front of a board and taking notes all the time. Although that part is there, it's actually working in the labs that is most important here. Okay, so I did mention we have a program at the University of Arizona. I won't say much about it because this is at the PG level, so I'll skip that. But we have a strong interaction with Arizona, University of Arizona, and I'll sort of close with this picture. We've been doing a lot of work in corona research, COVID-19 research. And our students developed this mask. This is a mask that uses some nanofilms to give very, very high protection against the virus. And these students who developed it are shown standing in the corridor wearing their own mask. In fact, all our hospitals, everybody uses this mask. We are calling it the nano mask. It is a very high degree of fidelity and safety. It can protect from bacteria, protect from viruses. And it was developed in-house by our students and are being used by all our hospitals. And hopefully some company may take it up and manufacture it for the rest of India. The reason why it's so good is because it gives an extremely high degree of protection. It's not like a cloth mask. It completely prevents viral transmission at a 96% efficiency. So these are now used extensively by all our campuses and our students. And so it's an example of things that students are doing in our labs that actually benefit our own people and our own communities. And ultimately what we are looking to do with our educational program, and you will have opportunities to look at many others educational programs. We are not the only ones, obviously, but in terms of who we are, our main purpose is to try to develop a passion for the field and contribute to society in a way that we feel satisfied about it. Ultimately, that's the most important thing in your career, is that you should have a passion for what you're doing and you should make a difference to society. And with that, I think I will stop here and try to see if we can find a way to take questions. There's a lot of you here. If we can have some discussion, that would be great. So I will stop sharing now and try to take questions from you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your presentation. And dear students, I hope by now you would have some idea about molecular medicine and all the relevant fields in nanotechnology and nanoscience. And sir, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I have a couple of questions and students are typing in more questions. So I'll just
fine. Good. I don't mind staying longer if you don't. So we can try to address all the questions that you have, because my role is not as much to say that you should join Amrita. I mean, yes, we would love to have you join, but to help you take a proper decision, my role is to help you, okay? So if you have questions if you have career questions, I'm happy to guide you in whatever way you need to be guided, okay? So feel free to ask me about whatever the choices that you're considering.
Okay, sir. The first question to you, it is by Mehzan. Is the nuclear arc reactor theory possible to be applied in nanotechnology?
Well, we have a nuclear reactor that uses radioactive, rays to treat cancer, for characterization purposes, and so on. I don't know if it's called the nuclear arc reactor, but we have a reactor set up at our campus in Amrita Institute of Medical Sciences that we use for treatment purposes. We have a rather large cancer radiation program which uses it's called nuclear medicine program. We have a big nuclear medicine department at Amrita Institute of Medical Sciences, which is used for diagnosing diseases and which is used for treatment of diseases. There is a machine called Cyber Knife, which is a radiation treatment that is highly precise. It is like taking a very sharp knife and cutting out the cancer just exactly where the cancer is. And you can do that without a knife. So it's called a cyber knife. So that means without creating a cut in your body, you can remove a tumor with a cyber knife, and that is a radiation-based approach. So yes, I think radiation biology is a very, very important field. So thank you for bringing it up. We do use it a lot, and it's currently a modern standard for nuclear medicine.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much. And Mahzan, I hope your question is answered. So next question, does nanobiotechnology require both biology and maths in +2? This is by Purvaditya Sharma.
Well, it requires biology. It helps to have biology since our focus in molecular medicine and in nanobiotechnology is biology. So it definitely helps. But we've had students without a biology background, and what we have done is we have given them a special bridge classes or makeup classes to help them catch up in the biology aspect. So if you're a good student and you've done well and you want to switch over to biology, we can definitely consider. If you're a very poor student and you say that you want to switch over to biology, I would have to really discuss with you, because you may find it really difficult. But if you're a good student, your grades are good, and you say that I want to go into medicine now, fine, we can have a discussion about it, and I'm glad to help you. With regard to the math, it's not a math intensive course at all, so you don't have to worry. I mean, you need some basic math, and many of the students manage with some remedial help from us, and it's possible to manage. So because you're at the BSc level taking a science class, so heavy math fundamental knowledge is not required. So you can do very well without that, and any math that comes up, you can get our help to do that.
Okay, thank you, sir. So next question is by Farhana. She's asking, how can we diagnose a disease just like that using molecular medicine?
Well, let's say that there is a particular molecule that is overexpressed, okay, in a disease. It could be a protein, for instance, okay. So if you take a blood sample and you do a test for that blood sample, and if that you find that molecule, well, that means that it has the disease. Let me give an example of corona. Corona has certain antigens. These antigens are coming from the virus. These antigens are floating around in your blood. So if you have antigen is a molecule, isn't it? And if you're able to detect that antigen in the blood sample, you say you're corona positive. So it's a way to do it is always at the molecular level. It's not like I just check your temperature, and temperature could be because of so many different reasons. Or if you have a chest congestion, it may not be corona, it could be TB, or it could be just a congestion, or it could be pneumonia. So unless you go to the molecular level, you cannot get that certainty sometimes. And so it's the how you detect a certain molecule in the blood. Well, I don't want to get too much into that, but there are very many methods, and you learn that in your course. How do you actually do a molecular level testing and so on? And that can be done today.
Okay, thank you, sir. So next question, it is by Divya Marin Jacob. A lot of students, in fact, have this question. Shaji, for example, is NEET required to get in for Nano program?
No, not at all. NEET is for getting into medicine, which is MCI approved program where you become a clinical doctor. So if you need to become a clinician and work in a hospital as a doctor, you require NEET. But many of you who are not looking for a clinical career, you don't require NEET. So to get into molecular medicine, biochemistry, etc., we only need to basically have a good score in the 12th +2, and you first talk to us. We call it an interview, but we have a little chat to make sure this is really what you want. So that's all that you need to do. So there is no special exam that you have to pass. Okay.
Thank you, sir. And next question is by Debanjan Chakrabarti. So he wants to know, is there a chance that molecular medicine will replace other medicines owing to their efficiency?
Well, it is already, very dynamic and rapidly developed field. It's because of molecular medicine today that we are able to test for coronavirus. It's because of molecular medicine that oftentimes we are able to detect cancer early. Okay, for example, we have a program where we can detect oral cancer early because we are detecting certain molecules early. So for another example is when you have cancer, long before you actually develop the cancer, some of these cancer cells are circulating in your blood at a very, very, very early stage. And if you can detect those molecules early, you can detect cancer early. Early detection of cancer is like cure. So it is always in the foreseeable future, molecular medicine is going to be the backbone of diagnostics and therapy. And it's different from clinical medicine where you're just treating the patient. That's a very compassionate field because you're directly interacting with someone who's sick and you're helping them recover. So this is more at a scientific level where you're developing diagnostics and therapeutics and so on to help people.
Okay, thank you, sir. So next question is by Suashri. So she wants to know if molecular medicine or nanobiotechnology can help to reduce genetical disorders like butterfly skin.
Genetical disorders such as?
Butterfly skin.
Okay, well, there are a lot of dermatological disorders, and some of them are genetically oriented, and there are genetical disorders associated for the heart, for the brain, for most any part of your body. Many of them are directly related to genetic disorders, and molecular medicine, as well as nanomedicines, have been used to correct genetic deficiencies. For example, genetic modification or medicine that are given to correct genetic defects. Some of these things are researched on. We also have a new technology in the nano area specifically for correcting genetic defects. And there's a lot of work going on. But the fundamental technology is a molecular medicine technology. That is, you give what is known as CRISPR-Cas9. So it's a protein and an identifying molecule that you give. It goes directly to the gene, to the place where there's a defect, cuts out that defect and replaces it with a healthy part of the gene, or just simply removes the defect. And that molecular medicine approach won the Nobel Prize recently, as you may know. And we also have a development there where nanotechnology comes in to make that a little bit more efficient. So definitely genetic diseases can also be controlled, but definitely not all genetic diseases can be cured today. There are a lot of diseases where we may have to live with it. But in the future, as we look ahead, there is a potential that you can correct pretty much all genetic defects. So people born with certain genetic defects, there is a way, there's a potential that we can actually correct it at a very early stage. We can test for the defects. That's called gene sequencing. So when a baby is born, you could do a gene sequencing, the whole genome sequencing, determine where are the defects, and potentially correct every single defect at a very early stage, so that as the baby develops, these genetic defects don't manifest into diseases later on in life. So that's the dream. You guys are young, you should always dream, okay? There are ways that you can do it and correct genetic defects. But even if the disease due to the genetic defect has come, there are still ways that we can reduce the intensity of the disease by treatments that try to correct the genetic defects. So there's a lot of potential.
Thank you so much, sir. So next question, is it expensive to set up an advanced lab like this?
It is. If you're thinking of starting a company, yes, you need very advanced characterization facility. You saw the equipments that we have shown you. They run into a couple of 100 crores, okay? That's why we can offer these kind of courses, because to give that kind of training to students is definitely not something that everyone can do. And we have the facilities, we have the hospital, and so molecular medicine is something that we can offer. And once you have that skill, you have an entry into so many companies, into so many other future research centers, facilities and opportunities abroad, and so on. So yes, it is expensive. For example, you saw the electron microscope. That's a very expensive equipment. That's costs about 5 crores. So one microscope. So these sorts of things are difficult because you're trying to see at the molecular level, right? Characterize at the molecular level. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir. So next question. There are a couple of students who wants to know, is this helpful for non-bio students? This question is by Niranjan Hari. Is this helpful for non-bio students?
No, absolutely. Because if I didn't get much into the non-bio part, because I figured most of you would be interested in the bio part, which is why you're here. But we have a lot of students who are not bio. Like Ashwati here, sitting here, is doing a PhD in a non-bio area. And she's using the technology and the instruments for non-bio research, developing new materials, developing new batteries, developing solar cells, developing sensors. Okay, sensors are important. For example, blood pressure sensor, oxygen sensor. All of these things are not directly bio. It's actually developing devices. And many of the facilities we have also help in that as well.
Thank you, sir. So next question, it is by Suashri Bhattacharya again. Recent research of using and modifying stem cells and injecting it into the body to reduce aging. Is this an application of molecular medicine?
Well, it is. Modifying cells and re-injecting into the body is definitely part of molecular medicine. Absolutely, yes. Whether we are not at a place where we can control aging. Okay, I mean, it's a good thought that we can treat aging with stem cells, because after all, stem cells are the so-called young cells in the body, which produce new cells. So the word stem comes from the fact that they are very young. So it makes sense that if you have more stem cells, you are younger. For example, I would have less stem cells and probably less dynamic stem cells than you all will have. So therefore, there is always this feeling that if you inject stem cells that you would become younger. There is no proof of any such thing, but the concept of injecting cells is very, very much there. In fact, it's even practiced in cancer. For example, in immunotherapy, you take the cells from the body and you modify them and re-inject it. For example, corona. In corona, you take the plasma of patients, okay, because it has the antibodies. You take the plasma of patients and you re-inject it into some other person. And that seems to be able to cure that person of the corona disease. So it's a very, very, very good question, because it is actually practiced, re-injecting and modifying cells. And that's part of molecular medicine as well. And it is being done. I won't say that it is successful in aging. We have not been able to stop aging. So that's a very complicated subject. So, but people are trying.
Okay, thank you, sir. So next question, it is by several students. In fact, Ravikaran has also asked how to get into Amrita University for molecular medicine.
Okay, so you come to the website and you apply. You click on the apply now button, put your information, and we will contact you. So all the information about these programs are there on our website. So we have 3 people sitting and monitoring that. And so you will get very quick replies from us to guide you in terms of how to actually apply and all of that. So it's very easy to do, especially for you who are so computer savvy, you should have no problem at all.
Okay, thank you, sir. So Mariam wants to know what is the difference between biotechnology and nanobiotechnology?
Oh, thank you for that question. I didn't want to get into it because many of you expressed the feeling that you want to hear more about molecular medicine. But basically, biotechnology, and I had a slide on it, but I won't go back to the slides. Biotechnology is basically about using biological molecules for various technologies. You know, it could be technology to improve the hardiness of plants. It could be technology to improve the health of people, creating new genetic variants of plants and fruits and whatnot. Biotechnology has been around for some time. It's a very dynamic area. There's a lot of scope there also. So here you go. What I'm showing you here is the biotechnology. So here you're using biologically derived technology. That need not be only medicine. Okay, it could be energy technologies. It could also be other technologies that are used to create proteins like insulin, tissue culture technologies to make better plants, genetic technologies, and also, making bread, making penicillin, using microorganisms to break down toxic waste, using microorganisms to remove oil spills from the ocean. It's all part of biotechnology, okay? But nanobiotechnology is a little bit where you bring in the nanoscale into the biotechnology, and you have a new field which has become very, very, very intense even here in India, and that's what nanobiotechnology is. So if you take a scale that is 100 nanometer or less, we can create very, very efficient biotechnological processes which are more efficient and work better, better resolution, and so on. So the field of where you're combining nanotechnology with biotechnology has become a field in its own right, which is why we have a program in nanobiotechnology. Okay, so let me stop sharing the screen. Okay. I hope that kind of made it slightly clear.
Thank you, sir. So next question, several students wants to know, can molecular medicine help to cure autoimmune disorders?
Oh, absolutely, yes. We have a program in autoimmune disorder. One of them is multiple sclerosis, and it's a very active program that we have. And in that, it's part of our molecular medicine program. We have scientists who moved here from Australia, who is an expert in autoimmune diseases, and he's developing different molecules to create a vaccine for multiple sclerosis, as well as to detect multiple sclerosis early. He's also developing some molecules to treat multiple sclerosis. These are all autoimmune diseases. Even some types of arthritis is autoimmune, and those also are areas of his interest. So autoimmune diseases where the immune system attacks our own cells, right? That's what autoimmune is. So in autoimmune, our immune system becomes the enemy. So we want to stop the immune system from thinking that our body is the enemy. So if we do that, we cure autoimmune diseases. So we have to find a way to block the immune or to correct the immune system's thinking. And that's what autoimmune disease is. And we have certain research that is going on in molecular medicine. It's very active.
Okay, thank you, sir. So next question is by Nandita Menon. So she says, primarily is life a self-sustaining group of particles? Is that the reason why nanotechnology can influence diseases and their medicine?
Well, life is a self-sustaining group of cells. Okay, cells are the unit of life. The single cell amoeba was the first life apparently that started. Okay, and then that evolved into these complex beings like ourselves. So when you put, like I said, 1 trillion cells together, you get a human being. 1 trillion cells together. So you really are looking at cells as a unit of life. Now, that's a slightly larger unit of life than a nanoparticle or a molecule. So the molecular medicine or molecular sciences is looking at molecules that are much smaller than cells. So these molecules or nanoparticles can work with these cells and try to influence life, the health, the diagnosis of health, the status of the health of the person, etc. So I don't know how well I answered it, but I'm just guessing what you are trying to mean by it. Hopefully, I addressed that question properly.
Thank you, sir. Sir, Abhishek G. Bhatt, Arvind, Nithi Patel, all of them wants to know what are the risks of nanotech in medicine? Any side effects?
Yeah, very good question. There obviously every technology has its risk, right? You cannot, even if you buy a knife to cut vegetables, you could cut your finger instead, right? So there's always a risk when you're using anything that a human being makes. You have to take care, you have to be careful. In the same way, when you are using nanomaterials, if you use a wrong material in the wrong place, you could have certain side effects which are not good. For example, when people take chemo drugs, they get a lot of side effects, which is why chemo drugs, people don't like to take chemo drugs for cancer because it causes side effects. So side effects is a very common part of any kind of medicine. Every medicine has side effects. If you take too much paracetamol, you could get really sick, correct? Too much side effects. So controlling side effects is the whole idea. So same thing with nanomedicine and nanotechnology. How do you limit the side effects? And there are certain medicines which are very safe, certain materials which are very safe, more biocompatible. You make sure that you design these things so that they are safe. And I think there is a lot of potential for it.
Okay, thank you, sir. So next question. A couple of students wants to know, is molecular medicine successful in curing cancer? And Abhishek wants to know, if molecules can destroy cancer cells, how do they detect them?
No, once you destroy the cells, then you don't have to detect anything, they're gone. But you can use the molecules that are generated by diseases to detect the disease, or you can use external molecules to treat the molecular defects and treat the cells. For example, in cancer, one of the problems in cancer is that the immune system is not removing the cancer. See, normally, the immune system catches whatever is wrong in the body and kills it, right? You would expect that our immune system should be able to detect our cancer and kill it. But it's not happening, right? Obviously, there is a problem. Somehow the cancer is evading our own immune cells. So you can find a molecule that stops the cancer from evading the immune system. In fact, one of the cures, it's called immunotherapy, is to block the cancer from evading our own immune system so that our immune system can catch it and kill it. So there are very innovative ways that we can use molecules to treat diseases. So I don't know if that made sense to you. I hope it did. It's a complicated field for a 5-10 minute discussion, but hopefully I'm giving you a sense of it. Everything really ultimately happens at the molecular level, okay? And the molecules that go in can have an enormous effect at the cellular level. And the cells make up the tissue makes up the human body. So if you can function at the molecular level, you can treat cells. If you can treat cells, you can treat tissues. If you can treat tissues, you can treat the body. So everything is interrelated, right? So that's what you should keep in mind.
Thank you, sir. So next question, what are the job opportunities after studying molecular medicine? And that is by Adil Manoj, and Anandu wants to know any opportunities abroad.
Job opportunities, as I said near the beginning of my talk, is tremendous. I told you about pharma companies, biotech companies, hospitals, research labs, and so on. And we have a long list of companies where people go to. There's no point in my putting up a list. These are companies here in India. And as I said, there are new startups and new companies that are forming all the time, which are looking for young, talented people. And so there is a lot of scope. Going abroad, extraordinary amount of opportunities. See, unlike in India, and in a way I'm sorry to say this, but unlike in India, in other countries, people are very open to new and evolving technologies and fields. And they're always looking for people with strengths in these cutting edge areas. And if you have those sorts of skills, it is very easy to go abroad. If that's what your intention is, to go abroad and get training abroad, which is perfectly okay. And I think it's a great idea if some of you want to do that after your bachelor's or even after your PG. Many of our students in molecular medicine are going abroad. I would say, maybe even 50% of them. So because they want that advanced exposure and training and then come back to India, the intention is to come back and do something here. So the options are a lot.
Okay, sir. And Maria Jacob specifically wants to know, after BSc, what are the job opportunities in molecular medicine?
After BSc?
BSc, completing BSc.
Yeah, well, after BSc, you can get jobs at the technician level, probably in labs. You will not really be able to take commanding positions after a BSc, but that's okay. Maybe you don't want that. But you can get jobs at the laboratory technician level in tech companies, pharma companies, and so on. But if you are looking for a career, then you should do your PG and then get into a higher level position where you can actually have responsibilities and staff under you and things like that. So that's at a different level where you'll have the satisfaction that you have your own, responsibilities and things that you want to manage on your own. But so there is jobs right after BSc as well, but it's a different level of job.
Okay, thank you, sir. Sir Arvind, Saman, Mondal, they all want to know, and a lot of students want to know, if is molecular medicine, can it find a cure for COVID?
Well, yes, absolutely. People are trying to develop vaccines, and they are looking at various ways to develop vaccines. There's a heated amount of effort. The only way to solve the COVID problem right now is vaccines. If we can vaccinate everybody, then there's no problem at all. So all the research that is going on in COVID is all molecular medicine, basically. Looking at ways that you can develop vaccines that can trigger the immune system to fight off the COVID. So how do you trigger the immune system? How do you trigger your T cells? How do you trigger the immune cells of your body to be much more dynamically active against the COVID virus? that's basically a molecular stimulant. That's what it does. It triggers the immune system to act. How do you do that? It's a vaccine, and it's a molecule. So therefore, there is a lot of scope, and it is going on intensively across the globe. And we are using molecular medicine to try to detect COVID using antigens, detect COVID antigens in the body, and that's something that is ongoing in our labs.
Thank you, sir. So several students wants to know what is the starting salary in India as compared to abroad. Abhishek and a lot many.
For jobs, I think it's difficult to compare because the cost of living is so different in the two countries. But I would say 4-5 lakhs is a starting salary, whereas abroad it'll be much more. But there's no comparison. You cannot compare because the cost of living is so very different. So you cannot, in absolute terms, compare the salary in India with the salary abroad, because you have to live there, you have to have a flat there, you have to eat there, so all that costs considerably more money than living here. So, if you're getting 6 lakhs, that's 50,000 a month, and that's a very good salary. That may be at the higher end for BSc, but it will be likely less than that. But definitely, my feeling is I would strongly encourage you to not think of BSc as a terminal degree. It's not really the way to think. I think you should start with BSc, and okay, if you want to take a little bit of a break to understand how the companies work and what happens there, that's okay. But I think you really should think career-wise in terms of getting a PG degree, because then you can have much more flexibility in terms of getting higher paid jobs with 80, 90 lakh a month with a PG degree and a lot of good skills that you can contribute to the company. Ultimately, salary is very, very dependent upon how you can convince the company, how helpful you can be, your dynamism, the way you talk, the way you present yourself, your command of the science and the work that you have done. So it's not like there's a fixed salary for everybody, So it does vary a lot. So the good students will get the higher end of the salaries, and the students are not able to project themselves well, make it less. So that's how it works.
Okay, sir. Navneet wants to know, is the campus selection?
Sorry?
Campus selection, placements after the course.
Oh, career selection.
Campus selection, getting selected by the companies. Do we have placements?
Oh, company selection. Yeah. So we are now that we are starting a BSc program, we are now actively soliciting on-campus company presence and interviews and so on. So far, we've only had PG programs. So because of that, we've not done a lot with on-campus interviews. So now we will be starting an on-campus program. By the time you finish, which will be 3 years from now, there'll be an active on-campus recruitment, and especially by different pharma companies and so on. There's also a pharmacy school. So together with the pharmacy school, we expect we'll have a very active recruitment program on campus to help students in their job search.
Okay, thank you, sir. So, Pohumi Lakshmi, several students wants to know, can molecular medicine be used to cure mental health issues like Alzheimer's, etc.?
Yeah, I told you about Alzheimer's. Yes, we have a program in nanotechnology, not we, but there is a program in nanotechnology to try to attack the problem of Alzheimer's, because it has to do with the development of or accumulation of certain waste proteins, which happens and that actually impairs the memory of the person. So there is a lot of problem. But if you're talking more about, mental health, actually more and more research is finding that mental health is actually biochemistry. There are some impairments in the biochemical functioning at the brain level, which is causing certain molecules to be in excess or certain molecules to be less available. That is causing, say, stress or experiences that are out of the ordinary. And more we are finding that even ordinary psychiatric illnesses are really related to biochemical imbalances, and that can be treated with molecular medicine. So in the old days, people thought, okay, this person is crazy, you can't do anything about it. But that's not how actually people think now. Psychiatry is a very important area, but that's more at the level of just simply using medicines. But developing new medicines that can address different psychiatric illnesses, as well as Alzheimer's and other problems of that sort, is possible and is going on. So there is a lot of scope for mental illnesses as well.
Thank
you. A lot of good questions. I'm really impressed.
Thank you, sir. And next question, Farhana, Vishnumaya, they all want to know, are there any government universities providing these courses, and especially in Kerala?
No, there is no government universities teaching molecular medicine. There may be biochemistry, which is more of a staple course, but certainly not molecular medicine. So molecular medicine, as I said, it's an area that has grown very fast in the last 10 years or 15 years, and requires a very advanced setup and state-of-the-art labs and a hospital. There isn't such opportunities yet in the government sector, and the government is more trying to reach out to develop the basic knowledge of students at the basic level, and they're not as much right now focusing on cutting edge areas and so on. And so you won't find molecular medicine in any government universities. But that doesn't mean that it's not important. It just means that the government's focus is a little bit different in the basic sciences, like molecular biology or biochemistry and things like that, botany, zoology, the staple sciences. And for good reason, because they're using taxpayers' money to basically bring up the lower level, bring up the bottom a little bit and give more information and more capability. But what we are looking at is developing some cutting edge areas that can really make a difference. And for that, I think you'll have to come to places like us.
Thank you, sir. So Navneet Krishna wants to know, and some of the other students wants to know, how many seats in molecular medicine?
Because it's a BSc course, right now we are targeting, starting now, we're not really targeting more than 50 or 60 seats, so that we ourselves don't get overwhelmed the first year that we are starting. But that's still quite a lot of seats. So I wouldn't be discouraged. You should apply. And in each of these programs, we could go up to about 50 or 60. And so if you're really interested, if you're excited about it, I'd encourage you to apply. And we'll work with you as soon as we receive your application.
Okay, so several students wants to know the duration of this course and what is the fee structure?
Yeah, so basically the course is 3 years. As you know, BSc, as per University Grants Commission rules, is the Government of India body, BSc has to be for 3 years. So it's a 3-year course. And the tuition fee is 90,000. That doesn't include like hostel fees and lab fees and other things. But the tuition fee is 90,000. And that is a very competitive fee compared to many other programs across the country, because we are starting out, we have kept the fee somewhat more modest. What you need to keep in mind is that you have access to some of the world's best facilities. Anywhere in the world, you won't get these kind of facilities better than this. And we have it with us, and we can train people in a very solid way.
Okay, thank you, sir. So, is there any scholarship at Amrita? Ravikiran would like to know.
Well, at the undergraduate level, we are not offering a scholarship. Government of India is also not offering scholarships at the undergraduate level. So you'll have to wait for the PG program for scholarship. Their government also offers scholarships at the PG level. So the undergraduate program is difficult for us, considering the cost of running these programs and maintaining these equipments and so on. But if you are an exceptional student and you want to discuss with us, please do that. I don't discourage you to do that. We can consider it, but as a rule, we are not offering.
Okay, thank you, sir. Now, Diya Dilip would like to know, is BTech or BSc is better for these courses, biotechnology?
Well, okay. This is a common question, and it's good you asked that. So, what is the difference between BTech and BSc and MTech and MSc, right?
Yes.
So, one is a more professional degree, and it includes technology, which is basically some engineering component there. Okay. Whereas science is more basic in nature. It's not a professional degree. Like MSc is not a professional degree, in the sense that you can get a license and you can operate as an engineer in a government factory. MTech is considered a professional degree. We don't have those degrees abroad. Abroad, you only have BSc and MSc. So, but in India, you have this system of a technology degree and a science degree. So the difference is 1 year. So if you spend 4 years, you get your BTech. If you spend 3 years, you get BSc. Likewise, MTech and MSc are similar in terms of number of years, but MSc is more science-oriented, whereas MTech is more technology-oriented. There are engineering parts to it and so on. That's the basic difference.
Thank you, sir. Sir, Abhirami would like to know the application of molecular medicine in agriculture sector.
Oh, that's a very good question. So just like human beings, plants are also living creatures, and they work with the same principle that it's made up of cells connected. All the cells are connected by an extracellular matrix. So in the same way that you can develop molecules to cure diseases in humans, you can also cure certain diseases that afflict plants. You can also spray certain molecules onto the leaves to prevent it being kind of damaged by insects, for instance, or you can spray certain molecules into the soil to act as micronutrients, which get taken up by the plant, and it goes into the plant and gives a plant that is much healthier. So there are so many ways also that molecular medicine is used in plants. In fact, we have a program in agriculture which started a year ago, and they are actually planning to look at new fertilizers and new types of plant sprays and so on, which are used to create healthier plants. So there is a lot of opportunity of molecules in agriculture. They probably don't call it molecular medicine because that's more refers to human beings.
Thank you, sir. So, Arati would like to know the role of molecular medicine in curing lifestyle diseases.
Yeah, so lifestyle diseases really has to do with, say, cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, and so on, right? So these sorts of, like we ourselves have a program where we try to use certain molecules to inhibit atherosclerosis, which is the formation of plaque in blood vessels, which causes heart attacks in the future. Basically, cardiovascular disease is a lifestyle disease because we eat the wrong food or we don't exercise enough, and you need the help of certain molecules to combat that. If you're not having proper exercise and proper diet, and you're not the kind of person who likes to be active in that, you may take the help of molecules to help you with. Or if you have a high cholesterol and you want to bring down the cholesterol in your body, which is a lifestyle disease. So even blood pressure is a lifestyle disease. Today you have so many blood pressure molecules, like you take medicines to bring down your pressure. So it's very common. And in diabetes, okay, which is a lifestyle disease, also there are ways to handle that. Make your own insulin in the lab. So the technologies to make synthetic insulin, which can be used to treat people. So Biocon, for instance, is making using recombinant technology to create insulin and so on. So lifestyle diseases is very much also the realm of molecular medicine.
Thank you, sir. So we are, I think it's time to wind up our session slowly, and before that I think we can address a couple more of questions. So one question is, are there any physics courses in molecular medicine? Akhila Anil would like to know.
Well, there are no physics courses in the standard molecular medicine program, so that doesn't happen. But if you're doing some work related to physics in your research, you can learn some of that stuff in the lab as part of your research program. But there is no physics course in the molecular medicine program.
Okay,
no.
And Kevin would want to know what are some of the interesting nanoparticles found in nature?
Found in what?
Nature.
Oh, yeah, nature is full of nanoparticles. In fact, the whole body is full of nanoparticles because nature works at that level. If you look, I didn't show you those pictures of butterflies, like their wings is made of nanofibers. So butterfly wings are made of nanofibers. That's why they are so strong and lightweight. And many of the biological materials are all nanoscale in nature. You probably heard of the lizard, right? That climbs up on the walls. So their feet contain these nanofibers, and that's why they stick to the walls so well, and they can climb the walls. So nanoscale materials is very much a part of all biological living creatures. Synthetically, if you look, you have nanoscale materials everywhere. If you burn something, the smoke contains probably some carbon nanotubes. So you're always in nature. If you look at the air that we breathe, it will contain nanoparticles. And some of those are not harmful at all. But some types of fumes or some types of effluents could be harmful. So nature is full of nanosystems. So that's where we learned about all of this.
Thank you, sir. So Pallavi would like to know, how well is India equipped with nanotechnology in medicine?
Extremely well, I think. I told you that India is the number 3 publisher in the world in nanotechnology area. So we are very active. There's a huge program in the government to fund nano-based research, and we are one of the foremost institutions in terms of funding in that area. We do a lot of work in that area and in molecular medicine as well. So India is, like I said, we started out the talk like that. India is not the India it was 30, 40 years ago, okay? You are growing up in an India that is very dynamic and that has a lot of potential and scope. You don't necessarily have to run away to some other country to learn something new. You can learn it right here, okay? So that's a good thing. You should be excited about it.
Thank you, sir. So, Dushyant has got a question. He's asking about astrobiology. Is it a promising field?
Which biology?
Astrobiology.
Oh, in the nursing?
I don't know, sir.
I
He's
think
been
that all of
repeatedly asking this question, so I think he really wants to know something about
maybe
it.
you're talking about about life in other planets. I wouldn't know much
Only
about
Dushyant
them.
will know.
That would be the part of science fiction.
Okay, okay. Thank you, sir. Sir, one last question. A lot of students wants to know. Atri Vyas, Mariam Thomas, they want to hear from you your tips to share. Like you got into Columbia University, you had such a successful career. So, what are the tips to share for them?
Thank you for asking. Okay. I think the most important thing, and as I say, since I myself went abroad and came back, I think wanting to go abroad and do well and learn new things is a perfectly legitimate thing. I think it's great for young people to broaden your mind and diversify your thinking, develop critical thinking, and so on. Um, I think the most important thing about going to careers abroad is about your passion for things. People in other countries don't just evaluate you by your grade and GPA and CGPA alone. They really want to know who you are and what kind of a person you are, what motivates you. For example, they will ask you, write a big essay about what motivates you in your life and why you're applying to us. And they want to know that side of you, what clicks for you, and what is your motivation, what is your passion. That's what they are interested in. And I think we should also be, but getting into other countries and getting into good program requires you to have a good CGPA. All of that is true. But at the end of the day, they will interview you from there online and they will talk to you. Of course, in those days, it was not there. I escaped that. Okay, but so I think if you take a genuine interest in what you're doing, you can go anywhere. There's absolutely no issue. There's no problems. It's actually quite easy to get into programs abroad if you're excited about the programs and you have passion for it. Definitely, grades are important. I'm not minimizing that, but having the grades and then on top of it, having the enthusiasm and the passion for contributing and developing yourself and developing critical thinking is the most important thing. I would go abroad if you really feel that this is the field that you really want to grow in. Okay, don't go abroad just to go abroad. I don't care what I do, I just want to go abroad. See, that's bad. That is not going to help you at all. If you want to go abroad, really ask yourself, what do you want to do with your life? How do you want to contribute? And that's the part that is, I think, very important to make you very successful. Then, I had a level of passion after having passed out from IIT. And that helped me a lot to do well at Columbia University, get presidential awards and do very well, become a professor there and so on. It all depends upon you, nothing else. All of you, I'm sure, are intelligent, okay? But getting that real genuine commitment and passion is very important. I don't want to give it too big of a lecture, but I would say that if you can combine your degree, see your grades with some level of passion, you can get anywhere you want.
Thank you so much, sir.
I congratulate you on your interest and passion in new areas. Don't lose that. That's what is so important, because you go and do something you like, you are going to be successful. You don't have to worry about it. A lot of people worry whether, oh, this field will give me a life or will give me a career. And, you know, if you have the excitement and the passion to do something because you like that field, 100% you'll do well. I would not worry. Don't have a lot of stress in your life about all these things. Do something, pursue your passion, work hard and sincerely, and you will do absolutely well. And I can see that a lot of you have passion. You have been staying here for two hours and more, listening to me. And I'm glad that I didn't drive all of you away in the first half an hour. So, you know, keep up that enthusiasm. Thank you so much for participating. You know, if you go on to other careers, I wish you very well, okay? And all the best in your careers. Yeah.
Okay, so we do have a lot more of questions. So we have actually posted a mail ID in the chat box. If you can all see that, researchadmin@aims.amrita.edu. So all your questions to sir, you can send as your email to that mail ID. We will make sure that it reaches sir and we will get back to you, okay? On molecular medicine or any courses in Amrita or the science of any course that you would want to hear from sir, okay? Because due to lack of time, we are winding up the session. So anyway, thank you so much and all the best to you all, and make sure that you don't fall in the trap of, you know, just medicine and engineering as the options for science. It's not like that. We do have plenty of super brilliant people like sir and a lot many others who will actually guide you through to get a successful career ahead and to make sure that you actually reach there where you want to be in terms of your career. And thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for your valuable time, and thanks to all dear students. Do not forget to send your queries, questions regarding the course, regarding any doubts you want to ask sir to researchadmin@aims.amrita.edu. And please send your feedback as well, okay? Thank you so much. Take care. Thank you.
Really enjoyed talking to you all, and good to have met you. I won't remember your names, too many of you, but I hope to see some of you at Amrita. Thank you so much for your time and listening to me for so long.